G'day and welcome to another episode of Perth Property Insider. I'm your host, Jared Mann, and today I'm really excited to have the Block's Ronnie and Georgia along for a chat with me on how to renovate for profit. Now, I'm a big fan of these guys, really looking forward to taking you inside their experiences and everything that they've learned while being on the block, as well as some of their key tips for renovating for profit. It's going to be a really great episode. Got lots to cover. Let's go inside.
Welcome to Perth Property Insider, where you will learn how to grow your wealth and improve your life using Perth property. Our show is brought to you by Investors Edge Real Estate, the highly rated and award-winning property management specialists servicing the whole of Perth. Now, here is your host, Jared Mann.
G'day, Ronnie and Georgia. Thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's really great to get the chance to chat with you today.
You say that now. Do you know what I mean?
Careful what you wish for, Jared. But yes, thank you very much and forward to it.
Well, I wanted the real thing. I want the unvarnished truth. And, you know, you guys have so much experience. I'm sure it's going to be great for our listeners, regardless of where we go with this.
Let's do it.
So I've got a bit of a confession to make before we jump in. I was chatting to my wife and she was telling me that she's never actually listened to a single one of my podcasts. And when I told her that I was having you guys on, I think I might have a chance of getting her first listen on this one. So shout out to her.
Another subscriber. Congratulations.
Yes, new subscriber. Might even be able to twist her arm for a review if she likes it.
I love that.
But that's, I guess, testament to how much of a favourite you are for a lot of us here in WA with your various appearances on the block. And it was awesome to see you back in 2021 and didn't quite go according to plan. It was such a awesome, you had such an awesome journey along the way, winning so many rooms, didn't you? And, you know, where did things end up for all of our listeners that were under a rock and didn't watch the things?
Yeah, well, our journey was, you know, going back as, I guess, faves. Firstly, there's an immense pressure on your shoulders to be really good, right? The expectation that you guys know what you're doing. So we definitely felt pressure to perform. And I think having not only that experience of renovating, which we've done in the real world, but I think also having done the block before means that you're able to, you understand how the process works a little bit more. It's not your standard renovation. So obviously you've got time restrictions, you've got suppliers you have to work with, you've got cameras in your face, you're being recorded 24/7. So I think because we had that experience, we sort of enjoyed ourselves a little bit more. And then I think what that translated into is just an ease of the renovation for us. You know, we didn't have that pressure of worrying about the filming process. We could actually just focus on building a beautiful home. And so we did well. We won quite a lot of rooms. We had a massive budget. So obviously when you win rooms, you win extra money that you can inject home. So we had the highest spec home without a doubt on the block. And then,
I mean, look, things were going our way. We've done it. We did everything possible to create a beautiful house.
And I think we did because I think in terms of like the product selections and the style of the home, we wanted just to appeal to as many people as possible. So we did a very neutral colour palette. We did a really functional floor plan. And then, you come to the auction and
look, and you know, the block is a reality TV show and the auction, you know, it's not scripted. It's the only thing that the executive producer does not have control over.
And it's the only thing we don't have control over.
Yes. You know, going ahead, you know, thinking before the auction, I thought we had a really good chance of winning. But, you know.
Well, the messaging we were getting from a lot of people was, you know, you guys, you're in a really good position to win this. You've created the best house. You've got the most interest from the tracking on the domain website.
Yeah.
And also got 8 registered buyers, whereas everybody else only had 1. We had 8 people to buy our house. And that didn't include Danny Wallace. So Danny Wallace is kind of like, he's the bigger card. He doesn't have to register. He can rock up. He could buy 5 houses on the day. He could buy 1 house on the day. You just don't know. And so when Danny came into play and then started bidding on everybody else's houses, that's where it just was out of
hands up.
Yeah, and also, look, because we did have 8 registered buyers, you know, we had to go first. Originally, Georgia and I wanted to go second, but, it wouldn't be fair to put up a house that only has one
registered buyer. And imagine if that got off to a bad start. Yeah.
Sets the tone for everybody else. So
that sets precedents, and then we're all screwed because it's very rare that you have 5 houses on the same street go on the market on the same day.
Yeah, so, like never.
Yeah. Block is, the exception to the rule. Like the prices the block houses get in the area. I mean, we were in Hampton, yes, but we were like not high-end Hampton. We went by the beach. Okay. Like a little bit of a dodgy end Hampton.
Yeah.
So the prices that we got for those houses was remarkable. Next level.
Yeah.
And it did seem like they were pushing the reserves and everyone was very shocked. I know no one ever likes their reserves on past seasons. I can't recall anyone getting their reserve and thinking, this is...
Well, it's interesting you say that because we've obviously had that experience in 2017 when we saw our reserve. By memory, they were at 2.6. We had qualified buyers buying our house at 2.6. So that meant for us it's going to sell, but how much above that reserve are we going to, what's our profit walking away with? So we had a very sinking feeling in 2017, and then when the reserves were revealed to us back in 2021, that all that emotion came back and we were like, wow, it's happening again, because our price guide was 2.6 to 2.8. Traditionally, reserves are at the higher end of that price guide.
Yeah.
Reserves were like $600,000 higher than the high end of the price guide. And we were like, no one's making money. No one's going to sell.
Yeah, it was really hard to watch from home, being on that roller coaster with you.
It was hard to live it, but you know what? Look, we're winning at life, mate.
This is Ronnie's comeback. He's like,
we made cash. We made 300,000.
And you know what? I think that's the whole thing, right? We are so grateful to walk away with that sort of money tax-free. And that is really, a lot, that makes a big difference in a lot of Australians' lives, and as it does for us. I think for us, the ego is bruised, right?
Yeah. If you get into comparisons and, we saw the cheating scandal and the others that didn't necessarily pull off the best rooms. And I guess as a home viewer, we wanted you to do better and get more because we felt you deserved it,
Thank you. And that was a particularly hard pill to swallow when other teams on that series who hadn't done the right thing and hadn't played by the rules and hadn't really respected the process, and in our opinion didn't have better houses than ours, were beat us. And that was a really follow, wasn't it, Ron?
It was, but you know what? We move on, and
Ronnie's already moved on, which is great.
We made some great contacts in regards to, because we are undergoing a renovation in our house soon, and look, all is good. But I can say honestly that that chapter has closed. That journey has finished.
Do you know what? I love how you say this. Ronnie always goes to me off again. But I guarantee if he got the phone call and they were like, Ron, he'd be like, yeah, right.
I don't think I would.
So
maybe a little more time needs to pass until Ron Dog's ready to, head back to the block.
Just all we need is time, mate. All we need is time.
Yeah. So give us some background on your other renovating experience, because I was surprised to find out just how much you guys have done, and it's not just appearing on the show for you, is it?
No, absolutely not. And the thing is that I'd always watched the block since it started, and once meeting Georgia, all I remember, because you weren't that invested in the block, were you? Georgia would come in and say, "What are you watching?" And she'd start yelling at the TV because she's like, "What are these contestants doing?" Because at that time, we were actually doing our own renovation.
You used to just irritate me. I was like, I reckon I could do that better. That's a really bad choice. And then I was but deep down, I feel like, why are we not doing this? Why are we not giving this a crack?
Yeah.
But in terms of our renovation experience, I guess Ronnie's grown up. His dad was a plasterer, and you grew up renovating houses with your family, and you moved every other year. And
I think watching my dad, and I think we'd moved to about 5 different houses. My dad worked extremely hard as a plasterer, but I kind of like the fact that we were moving around to different suburbs, because that would mean new primary schools, new high schools.
You like that?
And a new set of friends. Absolutely. Oh man, I love that part. But I think what that kind of showed me is that renovating houses is a good way to get ahead. We've done about 15 houses, including the 2 block houses. And one of the things that was in common with all the renovations is that they were all duplex blocks, duplex or triplex blocks, where you obviously retain the front house, sell off the back block, and then renovate the front house and then move on.
But in hindsight, how funny, we had this discussion the other day. We were like, the penny drops for us. I was like, imagine if we just like kept some of those houses. Why did we have to sell every single one of them? Because that was back in the day when you could be in Morley and you could pick up a duplex block for what, 400,000?
170,000, darling, back in the day.
Not when I was when I came on the scene.
When you came onto the scene, it was 300,000. My first Morley block was 180,000, and that was a corner block. And then I think we only had 300 square meters for that corner block, and everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, "What is this guy doing?" And we ended up selling, and we just kept on moving on. But we started off in those, like in Bedford, Dianella, Bayswater, and then we eventually moved up to Mount Lawley and North Perth. But I think the ones that we made our most money on was those like the Bedfords, the Bayswaters,
where your expenditure is less. You know, you can, because you're speccing out a house for that sort of demographic, for that market. Therefore, you're okay to put an IKEA kitchen in it. You're okay to put low spec hardware and tapware, because that's what you're just meeting the market. Yeah. There's actually more room for profit.
And when you look at others that are on market, you know, if yours is very well presented throughout and renovated to a nice even standard, you know, you're probably still standing out well, you know.
Yeah, the competition's, exactly.
And I guess it just worked really well where Georgia, you know, she could see it instantly what the house was going to look like, and all I need to renovate a space is a photograph or an idea. We're very good at making stuff look expensive without spending a lot of money. And, you know, much credit to Georgia, because I can't do what she does.
Can I just interject here? Like, if you had seen us, we were having this massive argument about our renovation at our house here, and like what you just said then, can you just remind yourself?
That wasn't an argument. That wasn't an argument. That was more like foreplay to me, really.
Whatever gets us going, Ronnie.
Yeah.
It's just that we're both very passionate people, very opinionated in what she wants. And I'm looking at, okay, George, that's a great idea, but that's going to, like, I know how much that's going to cost, and I'm just trying to come up with a cheaper solution. Because,
side of it.
You know, I would love to spend $1 million on this renovation in Bedford, but the reality is we're not going to be doing that, because what's the point?
I can't even deal with you right now. Oh, my God. You're the one that I'm have to go, Ronnie, we're not doing that. Ronnie, we're not. Anyway, we digress massively.
I guess this crosses over into, you know, some of the realities of renovating on the block and in the real world. How has renovating in real life been different to the emotional roller coaster we see on the block? Is it different, or is it same or?
I prefer renovating on the block for numerous reasons. Okay. Wow. You know you're going to finish your renovation in 12 weeks, so it's done. Secondly, you've got suppliers throwing product at you left, right and centre, and they move mountains for you to have what you need at the drop of a pin. So that's good. And then also it's like,
I guess it's going to reflect on them on national television if they can't deliver on time, or, you know, they've got that vested interest, don't they?
Yeah, and also, you know, product innovation. Like, we were using some of the newest products that hadn't even hit the market yet. And from a design point of view, that's really exciting. And also, I think the budgets, whilst they are tight, they're also generous, if that makes sense, because if you can win rooms each week, you can get a bigger budget, so you can do some really exciting things. So, and then obviously renovating in real life, it's like...
Well, when you're renovating on the block, all your 7 days or 6 days a week for 24 hours, you're just thinking on that room. Yeah. Okay. Whereas real world, you know, you've got school to worry about, you've got doctors appointments, you've got mortgages, like you've got all of that stuff on the block.
Real life. You've
got real life problems. Block, when you're in that little bubble, all you're concentrating on is just that room every week.
But also, I guess renovating on the block, you're doing room at a time, which is a little bit counterintuitive to how you would build a house. But for me, from a creative process, it actually works well. Like, I love just being in a room, standing there with my builders going, right, this is what we're going to do, and we're mapping it out, and we're actually visualising the space there and then. Whereas I think with a normal build, it's kind of a more holistic approach. You have to sort of the whole space and how you're going to work it and in which process you're going to build. And so, I prefer the block.
Yeah, look, it's very hard. Don't get me wrong. Once you lose about 10 kilos, 8 to 10 kilos in those 3 months, but then you put them straight back on, back into the real world, because it's just not normal. You're only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night.
Wow.
Nights you're doing all-nighters, but you just get so caught up in the rush. We had a lot of fun the second time around. Georgia touched on that, and that came down to the fact that it was our second time and we were comfortable. We knew what we were there to do, and we just wanted to bring it home to WA.
But also, I think you love the challenge. Like with this renovation we're about to attempt, Ron keeps saying, I reckon we should just try and do it in 8 weeks. I reckon we can do it in 8 weeks. And he's like trying to failure. I'm like, what? Just calm down, Ronnie.
It was not 8 weeks. I said 6 weeks, and I reckon we can do it. But yeah, look, that's to wait and see what happens there.
Watch this space.
Yeah,
I guess it might be a bit different when you're living in the house that you're renovating too. I've found that it's harder to plan things. There can be rooms. There's disruptions to the family. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we have lived in a renovation before, many renovations as we were doing it, but it was just Ronnie and myself and then Giordano, Ronnie's son, but, we would co-parent, so we would have him every other week, so it wasn't so hectic. Mm-hmm. But now planning on renovating with two kids, and we're probably going to start the renovation during winter, so it's going to be...
It's going to be awesome.
Chaos. No, it's going to be chaos.
No, it's going to be fun because... we weren't a camping family up until about 3 years ago, and now we've gone out and brought all the portable kitchens and all of that stuff. So I'll just be setting up one of the rooms as like a makeshift kitchen. We're going to have a bathroom. It's going to be very comfortable, darling.
I think I'll just be Uber Eats. It's going to be my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. But,
Do you know what? I can't actually everything you're saying right now is giving me high anxiety. So
yeah,
I think
we might have to not be able to continue the interview.
I'm like, just don't think about it until you're in it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to think about it until we're in it.
But Georgia did touch on it. We did the first 8 renovations that we did. We lived in it, So, but me working, I was a plasterer back in those days. So I'd finish work at 1 o'clock and then come home and work all night. And we just got used to rendered the process, and we didn't have a lot of cash. So we didn't really have a choice. So, like Georgia said, hindsight's a beautiful thing. If only, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was written all those years ago, I probably would have picked it up and said, let's start keeping it, because I had no idea.
Well, yeah, that's a good takeaway. And what were some of your takeaways from your 2 seasons on the block? Do you have any major things that have impacted the rest of your renovating now?
I think my biggest takeaway from the block is it's a great lesson in illustrating that hard work pays off, as in, you build a house in 12 weeks thanks to just sheer determination and hard work. And when you really put yourself in a position where you have to push yourself to the extreme, it's amazing to see what you can actually achieve. So that's a really tangible takeaway for us that we love. We always talk about that. And I think that's the biggest lesson we could have showed our kids. We had to be away from there once but twice, and that was pretty insane. And that definitely had impact on our family. I think the byproduct of that is showing them what hard work looks like. And so I'm really proud of that as well. In terms of a transfer to a renovation, I think it's just you become more confident in your process because you're really experienced at it. So, from a construction point of view, you learn so many amazing things.
Yeah, back in the first time we did it in 2017, I learned a lot of trades, like, working with the builders that were chippies, working with the gyprockers, the plasterers over there. And now those skills that I learned, I actually do that in the real world. So I'm very grateful for that, because in what opportunity are you in a scenario for 3 months where you're hanging around
24/7,
15 trades for the day, and you're helping them? And, so now I do my own tiling, I do all my own woodwork, I do my gyprocking. I was a solid wall plasterer by trade, but never a gyp. Every time I'd get called up to do a ceiling, I'd say no.
But it's funny because in Victoria, is a gyprocker and a ceiling fixer the same thing?
No, they call them plasterers over there. but over here we call them
ceiling
fixers or solid wall plasterers. So
no, they're different things.
Okay, well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, does it? It's all a house. So actually, I think it does matter.
The point is that for me,
I learned a lot of skills, didn't you?
I gained a lot, and I'm still using them today, and still learning every day. And that's one thing. I'm not afraid. We've done the impossible. I'm not afraid to build my concrete swimming pool at the back. Like that for me is going to be a heck of a challenge, but I know it's doable.
So if there's any concrete pool guys out there listening to this, and find us on Instagram and reach out because I'm all for it. So I don't know whether I think you can do it. Right?
All it is a whole concrete, some retic pipe, and away you go. You do a bombing.
I feel like there's more to it than that.
We'll check back in at the end of the reno on how the pool went, perhaps.
Maybe that's a whole episode of podcast.
Yeah. So I asked you to put together some tips for runners listening on how to renovate while still adding a high perceived value without a huge cost attached to it. So what are some of the tips you'd give people when they're doing their own renovations?
Yeah, I think you should definitely, from the get-go, plan and then just plan again. You can never be over-prepared, and in that it includes doing your due diligence and just really understanding what your project's going to look like so you can go into it with a real clear mindset.
So how much of that do you guys do before you purchase and how much do you do after? Because that's probably a good...
For us personally, when we were buying and flipping properties, we were always looking at properties that were subdividable. And so we would obviously reach out to councils, inquire about the zoning, and then also only really buy and sell properties in areas that we were very familiar with. It's all part of the process, really understanding what you're taking on.
And then on that note as well is also those real estate agents. Yes, they might be pesty, but they are your best friends. And if you want it for a career, you do have to take them out for lunches and coffees and really pick their brains because, these are the guys, getting these listings. And if you take a couple of agents out to lunch and, befriend them, play golf with them, they might pick up the phone and actually call you up first for a house that they've just won a listing on. So, because back in the day when we were renovating houses, every man and his dog was doing it. So if you have those relationships with real estate agents in the areas that you're familiar with, and that's something that, you had to know straight away when you were on realestate.com. If a new property came on, you've only got literally minutes to win it because...
And actually, it's not even that. It's actually getting the listings before they hit the market.
Yeah.
So if you can get the intel, that we've bought many properties before it actually even hit the market, just because we had those pre-established relationships. We had a lot of agents who understood what we did and, we put the feelers out saying, hey, we're looking for our next development, and then they would just come to us. So it is about establishing really good relationships with people in the know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's transferable to anybody.
But
really, isn't it?
We'd always do the right thing.
You say it's obvious, but most people try to do everything themselves and don't leverage that knowledge that they can find out from the agent. If you're planning your reno, it's good to find out what they think it might sell for if you did these things and work backwards, so that you're not spending too much.
And is that market, if you're renovating to sell, what is that market looking for?
Yeah, exactly. What's important?
Buy twos, or do they value a swimming pool, or is it more about the grass, or is it, there's all those sort of things that you really, really absolutely should pick the brain of your real estate agents because they're the ones in the know. I think secondary was understand your budget when it comes to a renovation and really stick to it. Like you got to be on top of that stuff because if you've set, let's say, $200K for a renovation and it blows out to $300K, well, that's just cutting into your profits. So it's really being efficient with budget management. And like a flow on of that is when you're working, you need to get multiple quotes because you don't want to always accept the first quote. You got to get, we would generally, not now because we've got our set trades, but in the beginnings we would always be getting 2 or 3 quotes, and you would be so surprised with how much they vary. Yeah,
especially in this market, it's like the moment someone gets busy, they'll just double their price and see how many of those they can pick up, and you get a couple of quotes, and it can be like. Some can be double what others are, and do that a few times across your whole reno, and all of a sudden you've saved 20 or 30 grand. So,
but you don't always want to accept the cheapest quote because sometimes that's a work. So you do pay for what you get. So you just have to be a bit smart and a bit, do your research when it comes to your trades as well. Give me some of the addresses of other works other projects you've worked on and do drive-bys and check it out. So, yeah, and then I guess
for me, what I used to do back in the day, if I didn't know the trades, if I actually was driving my car and I actually saw a tradie doing some decking at the front of someone's house, I'd stop and talk to them, look at their work, because that was also a good way. Yeah, that's a great way of actually seeing their work and talking to them. And then, say, look, mate, I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks. That would always work. And then also, like, when you're renovating for profit, don't be afraid to do the work yourself. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, yes, you might screw up, but these days with YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, there's so many how-tos out there.
I think within reason, right? So obviously you wouldn't do plumbing and you wouldn't do sparky work, but you could definitely give painting and tiling a bit of demo a crack for sure.
Yeah. And you certainly don't want to do anything that's going to cheapen your end value because, not everyone's a great painter like you, Ronnie. I see people say, I'm going to paint the house myself. I come and it's just slopped everywhere. And I'm like, oh, man, you shouldn't have. But you can save a lot if you are prepared to put in the sweat equity, I guess.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And when you're thinking about how to distribute your budget, you invest in rooms that you're going to get a return on. So that's always your kitchens and your bathrooms, right? So don't be afraid to spend the money on your kitchens. Don't be afraid to spend your money on the bathrooms. And then, living area, floor plan also, you got to get the flow of a house right.
And if you've never renovated in that suburb before, make a habit of going to home opens on a Saturday day in that price point. If you think your house is going to be worth $800,000 by the time you finish, go and have a look at $800,000 houses and see what your competition is. But we would always do the right thing with the real estate agents. If an agent had actually called me up and said, Ron, we've just got this new listing, come and check it out. The deal I would make with the agents is that they would always sell the back block. So,
what do you mean? That doesn't make sense.
They would sell the house very quickly and then they know in a couple of months that block was going on the market. So they would get the listing. So it almost becomes like a double commission for those. So, yes, agents can be annoying, but they can also be your friend. That can actually make you a lot of money.
Yeah, I've definitely, in my recent searches for property, found that befriending the agents is the only way that you're going to find something in this market and then get enough information from them so that you know where to come in at, because it's just so hard when people just have offers on the price point, where do you go with that? So
and look, I can speak like that about agents because I used to be a real estate agent, Mount Lawley, for 4 years.
You're one of us.
Yeah, and I loved it. I learned so much, and it was interesting because we were renovating houses in Mount Lawley, and I'd never forget Stuart Irving from Irving and Keenan. He approached me because he was selling our rear block, and he was like, "Ronnie, have you ever thought about becoming a real estate agent?" I was like, "Oh man, look, Stuart, I don't own a suit, I can't use a computer, but I'll see you on Monday." For me, it was like a no-brainer. I got to see how the other end of flipping houses is, and I really, really loved it. But for me, using my hands, that's where I get my most pleasure and enjoyment out of.
That sounds so dodgy.
But maybe when my body gives up, I could always go back to real estate when I'm older, because I made great friends and learnt a lot. But we also use that to our advantage now. So.
Was there any other tips we haven't covered in the 6? I can't remember where we got up to.
Another really quick and easy one to do is just, a fresh coat of paint. Don't underestimate the value of a fresh coat of paint. And it's actually, it's to paint a house. If you think you're up for the challenge, you can do it yourself, and it's really just materials and a bit of elbow grease. So it's quite a cost-effective way to completely transform it, honestly. If you're renovating to sell, select lovely, bright, neutral colours, as in just whites. So it keeps it fresh, makes the space seem bigger. You never want to go polarising colours like feature walls and stuff because, you just want to, when you're selling a house, you want to get 10 people walk through the house and you want 10 people to want to buy it. So, I think we almost covered all of them.
Well, I know we could talk for days. But we've got to cap it somewhere so that it's the nice time just for someone to get to work or go to their gym.
Yeah.
So before we go, what have you both been up to since the show aired in September? What's life been?
Been really nice to just be, well, we got stuck in Sydney because of COVID, and Ron was filming Celebrity Apprentice over there. So which sets to air in, I think, maybe May or June.
In May. So luckily, Georgia and the kids joined me in Sydney, which was fantastic. But we got out of there just in the nick of time, quarantined for 2 weeks at home. And now I'm back in the real world, looking after my Renovation HQ, which is my business. And Georgia's been incredibly busy with, doing a ton of collaborations.
Yeah, it's funny how you fall into, obviously, a byproduct of being on a TV show is your social media following, which is amazing. And so then, we've just been collaborating with some amazing brands and creating, I guess, organic content, which is it's quite challenging because from an influencing point of view, you have to come up with, creative ideas, and you have to shoot it, and you have to edit it, and you have to report on, traction, and like it's a whole, it's not just like stand there and take a photo. It's quite a process. And so we've been just incredibly busy with all that stuff, but also really just working on our house, which is our next biggest project. We'll be filming that and creating a series, and it's just getting a whole pile of sponsors on board. And
awesome.
We're very, very excited with what this year. We're also off to shoot another TV show for Channel 9 on the East Coast, which now we can finally travel because the restrictions.
Oh, that'll be much easier then. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be an insanely busy year, but we're ready for it.
Yeah, we are ready for it. And it's interesting. I have been working for the last 4 weeks, but in the last probably 3 weeks, I've actually been listening to your podcast, Jared. And
good one.
Unlike your wife. So there you go, Ronnie.
I've got to admit that, I never listened to a podcast before, but I was like, you know what? Because you touched base in November. You called me up.
Yeah, originally spoke then, didn't we?
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? Just, send us a text message with one of your links. And I started listening. I was like, wow, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about. So congratulations, mate. I've
cheers.
Put on a lot of friends to your podcast. So well done, mate. And I really applaud that.
So other than doing some work at my place, which I really appreciate.
No worries.
Karina's going to be very excited to have use of her laundry again now.
Oh, good. That's good. It was a pleasure,
what's some of the ways that you can help listeners with their renovation projects? What are some of the things you get involved with?
Well, Ron's really a jack of all trades, aren't you, Ron Dog?
Yeah, I am. And depending on what's going on in our lives, because we've got the extension,
you've got your project coming up.
I can't take on anything too big, but I'm quite happy to do small jobs. I advertise just like all tradies out there on high pages, but
we'll put a link to that in the show notes so people can reach out if they've got, something to do.
Through, social media, Instagram. I'm taking a few interior design clients on, but I'm quite time poor. So I'm sort of limiting. Again, that's not something that I advertise, but it just sort of comes to me and falls in my lap a little bit. So I'm selective with the jobs that I take on. But I enjoy working with people. And
more importantly, you enjoy working with me, because sometimes it's like they want us to go out to.
They want the double whammy.
They want the double whammy.
And then when they get it, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is crazy. What have we done?"
And they're like,
"Well, they want an authentic block experience, don't they?" So
Well, they get it, because that's who we are. Like, one tip: if anyone ever wants to go on a reality TV show, just please be yourself, because otherwise it's going to become very messy. You're going to get unstuck, and unfortunately, that's just who we are.
Unfortunately,
look. That's not unfortunately. That was the wrong word, but that's who we are. If we're just both very opinionated and very passionate people, I guess.
There we go. I like it.
Well,
never going to get by you, right?
I'm definitely going to have to try and have you back again in the future. Maybe we can touch a bit deeper on some of your most recent reno we can go a bit further into. And by then, I'm sure we'll have all seen Celebrity Apprentice, so we can probably have a few more things to talk about there. Ron Dog, hopefully, fingers crossed you do well.
Do we need to pre-warn people about this or
about
not?
What?
Oh,
mate,
dear.
What could possibly go wrong when the Ron Dog gets unleashed for 2 months, mate? No Georgia.
You don't understand. Like, I was the leash that just reined Ronnie in on the block. Like, there was constant.
This could be trouble then.
Yeah, and I wasn't there, so who knows, guys?
No, it's fine. But it's going to be good viewing. That's all I can say.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and catch you again soon.
Absolute pleasure, Jared. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Jared.
Cheers. See ya.